Hello there, I'm Haylena Krishnamoorthy and thanks for joining me this Thursday on 7Edition. The headlines. Malaysia will support and continue using Huawei technology, says Prime Minister. Malaysia appeals against UK court to recover $3.5 billion. And police launch criminal probe after boat capsizes in Budapest. We begin tonight's bulletin with this story. In a dialogue session at the 2019 Nikkei conference in Tokyo, Japan this morning, Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad addressed the trade war between the US and China and stated that Malaysia will still use technology from Huawei as much as possible. He said Malaysia is urging the US to find common ground with China amid the trade dispute between the world's two largest economies. He warned that a military conflict may be imminent if both countries fail in their bid to achieve a win-win resolution.
Now China has excelled in one particular field, in scientific research. The US must compete with China. But at times China will win, at other times the US will win. US has got good capability to do research and development in the past. They must accept that that capability can also be found in the East. But you want to have a situation in which you are always ahead. If you are not ahead, I will ban you. I will send warships to your country. That is not competition. That is threatening people.
On May 15th, a US administration added Huawei to its entity list, which bans the company from acquiring technology from US firms without government approval. To comply with the executive order, Google said it would restrict Huawei's access to future updates of its Android operating software, which powers many of Huawei's phones. Yesterday, Huawei filed a lawsuit against the US, alleging that a law that bans government agencies from buying Huawei equipment is unconstitutional. The Premier also proposed a regional currency based on gold, citing its stability to replace the existing currency trading regime. Tun Dr. Mahathir said the gold-backed currency could prevent the risk of manipulation and be used to evaluate the import and export activities among East Asian countries.
And if we use that currency to evaluate the export or the imports of the countries, then we can make settlements using that currency. But that currency must relate to the local currency as to the exchange rate. That is something that can be related to the performance of that country. That way, we know how much we owe, we know how much we have to pay in the special currency of East Asia. Maybe it can be extended also to the rest of the country. But what we are seeing today is that we are tied to the US currency.
He added that the manipulative nature of the existing currency trading regime sent Malaysia into a deep recession in 1997, despite having strong economic fundamentals. Commenting further, the Premier elaborated that if countries are to be downgraded or upgraded, it should be done by some international uncommitted forum rather than by a single country. Tun Dr. Mahathir meanwhile said the government needs 3 years to reduce the national debt to ceiling level of 54% of the gross domestic product, GDP, from 80% currently. He said in his speech that the government was also on the right track to revive the country based on the nation's growing economy and per capita income. Despite various challenges after taking over from previous administration, the present government had managed to reduce the debt of more than 1 trillion ringgit to its current level. Then Dr. Mahathir added it is important for Malaysia to reduce its national debt to a reasonable level to avoid draining government coffers in the process of governing the country. A farmer, a burger seller and a restaurant worker were charged today with involvement in terrorism-related activities last year. The men were accused of plotting a terror attack while on a trip abroad. At the Sepang Sessions Court, Muhammad Nurul Amin Azizan and Muhammad Shazani Mazan, both 27, nodded their heads to indicate they understood the charges read to them before Judge Muhammad Sabri Othman. Their plan to execute an attack was short-lived after they were detained at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport 2 during their return to Malaysia in April. In a separate courtroom, the restaurant worker, 42-year-old Hafiz Othman, was accused of making a trip to the Sinai province in Egypt for a similar terror activity. The three individuals were charged under the Penal Code, which carries a maximum imprisonment of 30 years and a fine. The court fixed July 11th for remention. In the meantime, 3 suspected Daesh militants have been detained following anti-terror swoops in 3 states. Police said the 3 men, a local, an Indonesian and a Bangladeshi, were nabbed by the Counter-Terrorism Division between May 17th and May 30th in Selangor, Kedah and Sabah. The first to be arrested was a 42-year-old Malaysian contractor at the KLIA on May 17. He was planning to go to Egypt to join the Sinai's Daesh cell before securing safe passage to head to Syria. The next arrest was a 20-year-old Indonesian man who is believed to have been a facilitator for Indonesian Daesh militants who transited in Sabah before heading to southern Philippines to launch suicide bombings. The suspect was arrested in Keningau, Sabah on May 26. The last arrest was a 28-year-old Bangladeshi in Kuala Kedah on May 30th. He was working as an assistant mechanic on a ship and also possessed the necessary chemicals and expertise to produce improvised explosive devices. The Counter-Terrorism Division is also looking for another Indonesian suspect, identified as Marwan, who escaped during the raid in Keningau on May 26. The government has filed an application for permission to appeal against a UK court's decision that delayed a suit between one Malaysia development Berhad 1MDB and 2 Abu Dhabi-based companies. In a statement today, Attorney General Tommy Thomas said both the Finance Ministry and 1MDB have filed an application for permission to appeal against the decision to recover substantial amounts of money wrongfully paid by Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak's administration. Thomas said the London court's decision for further arbitration was not satisfactory to Malaysia, as it meant the case would be determined without public scrutiny. 1MDB and the Finance Ministry filed the application in the Commercial Court in London in October last year to challenge a consent award that the 2 Malaysian parties had recorded under Datuk Sri Najib's administration in May 2017 with IPIC and ABAR. Under the consent award, Malaysia was obliged to pay $5.78 billion to IPIC and the bond trustee over a 5-year period. According to a ruling by Judge Robin Knowles on May 20th, the court granted a temporary stay of indefinite duration over the Malaysian government's claim that the settlement agreement with IPIC should be overturned. The stay would allow a second round of arbitration brought by IPIC and its ABAR investment unit against 1MDB to go ahead. The Attorney General said if the government succeeds in the UK court, Malaysia will be able to proceed to seek recovery of $3.5 billion that was paid by 1MDB subsidiaries to IPIC subsidiary. The related arbitration proceedings will now move forward in London, but under the court's supervision. Thomas assured that the government remains single-mindedly focused in its attempts to ensure that Malaysia's assets are recovered. Cooperation between the Malaysian Marine Police and Indonesian authorities needs to be enhanced to curb cross-border crimes. Its Region 1 Deputy Commander Superintendent Dimin Awang said keeping close surveillance of the marine boundaries should be the responsibilities of both countries and should be carried out regularly, especially during festive seasons.
Speaking during the breaking of fast with officers from Indonesia's marine and air surveillance units in the Malacca Straits yesterday, Dimin said that the close collaboration and continuous surveillance operation from both parties were crucial, especially in combating the transnational crime involving the vast border area.
Kita mungkin fikir ada orang-orang akan balik ke Indonesia dan selepas raya nanti mungkin dia akan balik ke Malaysia melalui jalan-jalan tikus. Walaupun kita ada ferry-ferry yang sah seperti Hutan Lintang dan juga di sebelah Port Klang, kita percaya ada sindiket yang cuba untuk membawa keluar. Dan dari itu kami akan bekerjasamalah sebelum raya di mana mereka akan pulang ke Indonesia dan selepas raya dia akan kembali semula ke Malaysia.
Dimin added that enforcement teams from the two countries will increase patrols in an effort to combat various criminal activities such as human trafficking, smuggling of cigarettes, liquors and drugs. The annual program on Wednesday, aimed at enhancing cooperation and relationship between relevant authorities of the two neighbouring nations, was also participated by representatives from Perak Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumers Affairs and the Fisheries Department. The Indonesian team was headed by the unit's director for North Sumatra, Yosi Muhammartha.
In the meantime, the Johor Marine Department has approved 13 additional ferry services to Indonesia for the upcoming Hari Raya Aidilfitri celebrations. Its director, Dixon Dola, said 10 additional services were approved for the International Ferry Terminal in Kukup, Pontian, while the remaining 3 slots for the International Ferry Terminal in Stulang, Johor Bahru. The additional services would enable some 43,000 more Indonesians to return home for their holidays, with each boat being able to accommodate up to 240 passengers. Dixon said the decision was made after taking into account various factors, including high demand from Indonesians wishing to celebrate Aidilfitri with their families back home. However, in line with the announcement, all boat operators are required to meet all the security standards to ensure the safety of passengers before their applications can be approved. The department said it would not hesitate to cancel the additional slot if any standards are not met. Besides the ferry terminal in Kukup and Stulang Johor, Johor also has the Stulang Laut Ferry Terminal in Pasir Gudang, Tanjung Pengelek and Tanjung Belungkur in Kota Tinggi, and Putri Harbour Pier in Nusa Jaya. When we come back, another victim of road rage. Details next. Welcome back. At least 7 shophouses in Taiping Perak were razed in a fire this morning. Authorities said the blaze was believed to be originated from a store which sold furniture and carpets. Fortunately, no casualties were reported in the 9 a.m. incident on Jalan Ayer Kuning. The Taiping Fire Station said 7 out of 20 shophouses of the 3-story building were already ravaged by the inferno when firemen arrived. An investigation is underway to determine the cause of the fire. Over 7 million tons of imported plastic waste have been left stranded at the Batuwet port in Penang since January. According to the Customs Department, 265 containers of plastic waste at North Batuwet Container Terminal remain unclaimed, with most of them falsely declared as scrap. More than half of the waste were believed to be from Canada, while the rest came from the US, Belgium, Germany, Hong Kong and Japan. Authorities are investigating 158 of the containers as well as 11 importing companies. Some companies have also been slapped with a 1,000 ringgit fine for each container. The modus operandi includes placing the plastic waste at the back of the container, while the good and recyclable ones would be placed in front. On Tuesday, Energy, Science, Technology, Environment and Climate Change Minister Yeo Bee Yin said the government would be sending back 450 tons of plastic waste to 10 countries. Malaysia has been the largest recipient of US plastic waste, registering over 195,000 tons of rubbish between January and July 2018. Now let's hop on to our daily segment Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. Hundreds of road users from different walks of life can be seen on the road daily. Sadly, not all road users show respect to others while they commute. In Seri Kembangan, Selangor on Thursday, a motorcyclist smashed a car's windscreen in a fit of rage after being honked at for hogging traffic in. The dashcam footage of the incident went viral on social media, where it also caught the attention of police, which eventually got the perpetrator arrested. The 3-minute clip shows two men slowly riding their motorcycles on the road, like a casual evening stroll at the park, hogging the lane. The driver then honked at the two men before overtaking them. In just less than a minute, one of the motorcyclists, a bald man with a helmet in his hand, caught up with the driver and stopped right in front of the latter's car. Moments after, the man furiously smashed the car's windscreen with his helmet. The driver then indicated for them to park at the roadside and talk over the matter. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code. After the break, 23 dead in Mexico's latest mountain crash. We'll be right back. We're back with foreign news. In Mexico, at least 23 people were killed when a semi-trailer and a bus crashed head-on and burst into flames in Veracruz on Wednesday. The accident occurred on a highway in a mountainous region known as the Maltrata Hills, where the roads wind between peaks that rise over 2,000 meters above sea level. Emergency officials said both vehicles were westbound when one of it lost its brakes going downhill and crashed into the other, causing both to catch fire. They also found 17 bodies of passengers who were traveling in the bus, plus 2 people who died in the semi-truck at the scene of the crash. Meanwhile, 30 people involved in the crash have been transported to a local hospital. The tour bus reportedly carried pilgrims who were coming back from a pilgrimage to a Catholic shrine in Mexico City in an incident that was not uncommon. In April 2006, a bus carrying religious pilgrims in the same area ran off the highway and tumbled down a steep ravine, killing 65 people. Hungarian police on Thursday launched a criminal probe into one of the country's worst boat disasters that left 7 South Korean tourists dead and 21 others still missing. The Mermaid sightseeing boat, which carried 35 South Korean tourists, collided with a much larger passenger cruise vessel on the Danube in the heart of Budapest on Wednesday evening and went down in just 7 seconds. None of the 7 South Koreans who died after the boat collision on the Danube River were wearing life jackets. Authorities said another 7 people were taken to hospital with symptoms of hypothermia and shock. Army divers have joined police in the search for survivors and continued into the early hours of Thursday, scouring the river several kilometers downstream. Wreckage was found on the riverbed after several hours of searching near the Margaret Bridge. Authorities said operation had been extended the entire length of the Danube and that the authorities in neighboring Serbia had been contacted. Access to the river has been blocked by the authorities. And now on to football, the Europa League. Eden Hazard scored twice, saying it was his parting gift as the Belgian's praise helps Chelsea sweep away Arsenal to win 4-1 in the finals in Baku, Azerbaijan. Wednesday's match came to life after midnight local time with a flood of second-half goals kicked off by Olivier Giroud's 49th-minute opener against his old club. Hazard at the 60th minute set up Pedro Rodriguez for Chelsea's second before grabbing a double of his own, including a penalty. The Belgian is widely expected to leave Chelsea for Real Madrid after 7 years in England, paving the perfect way for him to bow out. It is his and Chelsea's second Europa League this decade, while it is Maurizio Sarri's first major trophy as a coach. The victory caps a season in which they finished third in the Premier League to secure a return to the Champions League before coming into this match. There was disappointment for Arsenal coach Unai Emery as his side suffered a bruising final defeat that also means they will miss out on the Champions League again next season for the 3rd year running. Hazard at the 60th minute set up Pedro Rodriguez for Chelsea's second before grabbing a double of his own, including a penalty. The Belgian is widely expected to leave Chelsea for Real Madrid after 7 years in England, paving the perfect way for him to bow out. It is his. Now on the probe into Russian meddling in the 2016 US election. Former FBI Director Robert Mueller, the man behind the published Mueller report that investigates the possible collusion and obstruction of justice by President Donald Trump in the case, has announced publicly that he was closing the special counsel's office and resigning after completing the probe. He also reiterated that his report did not exonerate the president, as there are laws that prevent a sitting president from being charged with a crime. Now, Congress is expected to take the case up, as many are calling the president to be impeached.
Making his first public statement on the high-profile case, the special counsel said long-standing Justice Department guidelines prevented him from charging Trump.
A president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office. That is unconstitutional. Even if the charge is kept under seal and hidden from public view, that too is prohibited.
It emerged last month that Mueller sent a letter to Trump's Attorney General William Barr after he submitted the report, saying Barr's summation, which seemed to fully exonerate Trump, was misleading.
If we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
His 448-page report said it had not established that the Trump campaign criminally conspired with Russia to influence the election, but it did detail 10 instances where the president had possibly attempted to impede the investigation. Now, Mueller adds that Congress has both the constitutional powers and the responsibility to pursue the case. However, at this point, he says there would be no further details given.
There has been discussion about an appearance before Congress. Any testimony from this office would not go beyond our report. It contains our findings and analysis and the reasons for the decisions we made. We chose those words carefully, and the work speaks for itself. And the report is my testimony. I would not provide information beyond that which is already public in any appearance before Congress.
In response to Wednesday's announcement, Democratic candidates Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand and Pete Buttigieg urged for Trump's impeachment, while others reiterated much earlier calls. Meanwhile, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders said that he would support a decision to open an impeachment inquiry. Top Democrat Jerry Nadler said that Congress must respond to Trump's crimes, lies and other wrongdoing in the absence of legal action by the Justice Department. In the meantime, Trump had a bit of a different take, saying nothing changes from the Mueller report on his Twitter. Over 22 months of the probe, prosecutors issued charges against 34 individuals, including 6 Trump associates and 3 companies.
Ansel Elgort and Nicole Kidman helped bring Donna Tartt's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, The Goldfinch, to life in the first trailer for the film. The movie will hit Malaysian theatres in October, and the trailer wraps up 7 Edition. I'm Haylena Krishnamoorthy. Thanks for tuning in, and good night.